hop on and start talking about how your morning has been. How has your Friday morning been, Jordan? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It's been good. It's been
good. I'm so glad.
I'm just really excited. I mean, I'm just very excited about Saturday tomorrow. Just that I've learned what Saturday is and that you do it, Jordan. That's amazing.
Yeah, Saturday is amazing, Meg, and you should look up the slow carb diet and check it out because every Saturday you get to eat whatever you want, and it's awesome. And it's a way to stay healthy and yet still have that psychological release if you like to eat the way that I like to eat.
Well, I do Saturday anyways, but now it has a name. Perfect.
Saturday. It's real. It's real. Sometimes on Saturdays you get really good texts from Jordan, like pictures of food and things like that.
You need to start a Saturday Instagram account.
Tim Ferriss already has one. I think there's a hashtag Saturday. If you go look for it, it's where I have found some of the things that get added to my I'm going to eat that on Saturday list.
Yeah. I'm so tickled. All right. Well, it looks like folks have started to hop on and are joining us today for Coffee with MC. Mary Cheatham, would you like to reintroduce our guest for this morning? Sorry, you took a sip.
It would be my honor. So our guest this morning is the only man who is a team member on the Mary Cheatham King Real Estate team. He's our fella, Jordan Freed. He is our business coach. And so he's actually also kind of like our everything coach.
Life coach, yeah.
He just generally takes care of us. And he is all the way out in Kansas, which I think is the only way he can stand putting up with us because we can't show up on his doorstep. Thank heavens. I'm sure Rochelle, his wife, is the sweetest, and I'm sure that would just be taking it one step too far. So anyway, we're thrilled to have Jordan here this morning. Jordan is somebody who helps guide us through, seriously, kind of the decisions that we make and how to work together as a team and kind of everything that's important in our business. And so we thought that you guys might like to have a conversation along with us and learn a little bit about what we're focused on right now, which is, guys, next Thursday, so less than a week from now, is October 1st. And I don't know if y'all know what that means. It definitely means Halloween and candy, but it also means that it's the fourth quarter. So Jordan, what does the fourth quarter mean to you?
The fourth quarter is ultimately where you win, right? And so I'm a big sports fan, as you and Chip know, because I'm in the land of the Jayhawks, where Roy Williams used to be a coach. And so the fourth quarter is when the game is won, and it's also when you set up next year's game to win, right? So the fourth quarter is also about family, and it's about holidays and rest. And yet I think that you can win in your business, win in setting up next year, and you can also win in getting that rest and relaxation and connecting with your family through the holiday season. So you can have your cake and eat it too, even if it's not Saturday.
I was like, here comes a Saturday reference. I love that. That's so good. That's so good. Okay, so one of the things that we talked about a lot last year was, it's the fourth quarter. It's the last 90 days, and it's like you've worked so hard. We've all worked so hard. Everybody watching this, I know has. I mean, y'all, who has not struggled in 2020 with a million different things, right? I mean, it's just been a tough year. And I think we want to kind of throw it away, right? I want to say, thank God, it's the last 90 days. Let's just skate through this and move right on. And 2021 will be new and different. But the bottom line is 2021 is not going to be new and different in the ways that matter unless we make it so, right? And I think that we all think that with the stroke of midnight on the 31st of December, then we have this magic chance to start back over. But the real fact of the matter is that you have that chance if you set yourself up for it now. I mean, what conversations are you having with your clients, Jordan, around this concept?
Well, that's a great question. And it really kind of boils down to a conversation that you and I had about 7 to 10 days ago when you asked me the question, what's the opposite of distraction? And my automatic answer to that was focus or clarity, right? And you said, no, the opposite of distraction is traction. And so it kind of hit me, right? Like you take that word apart and you take the DIS off and it's traction. It's like the opposite of dis-ease is ease, right? And so the thing that we've been working on with people right now is that very simple, I find that very simple questions are the best method to really tap into the hearts and minds of people. And the question of, you know, if you could only choose one thing to make traction on between now and the end of the year, what would it be? And then digging in on that answer as to why did you pick that answer? What's important to you about that? What's the payoff that you would ultimately receive? Because what I want to see there is what's their intention? What's the thing that they're ultimately driving for, right? And so thank you, Mary Cheatham. You've really done my job for me in a lot of cases, but I think with this year and the fourth quarter and just kind of in general, it's an easy quarter to write off, especially this year, right?
Yeah.
And yet I think that this is a great opportunity for us to finish a year that we may look back on this year just like we look back at 9/11 and say, it totally sucked when that was happening. But man, did it ever change the way we interact and connect and the things that we value? The book is still out on that. And I'm optimistic about the future with it. And yet, where do you want to make traction? From now until the end of the year, I think is the question driving most of my conversations right now.
I think what's interesting about that is I think it's interesting to think about the word traction, you know, and what does traction mean to you? And to me, I mean, when it's like a visceral thing. Like when you say traction, when we talk about that word, it's like your tires are sticking to the ground. It's like things are, you know, it's like literally like it's sticky and things are rolling. And to me, when you have traction on something, it's not hard. It's not constant effort. It's that you're moving forward and you're staying stuck to what you're doing. Oh, I'm going like this with my hands. You're staying stuck to what you're doing, you know, and so it's not, what you're saying is not, you know, the opposite of distraction is rolling a boulder up a hill, right? What you're saying is the opposite of distraction is that you've got something going and you get the momentum going on it. And then you stay in that space headed right into the new year or into the solution or into whatever it is that you're moving towards.
That's right.
That's such an interesting thing to think about too. You know, I think it doesn't have to be heavy. It's about where can you, I don't know. I mean, Jordan, is it about, I guess first it's about identifying what it is that you're looking to gain traction on, or what it is that what are your big rocks that would make everything else easier if you handled these few things, if you excelled in these few areas, right? But is it about habits?
I mean, it eventually works itself into habits, right? I mean, when you start with a habit, it's a discipline. See, a discipline is an action that you have to think about in order to take. A habit is a action or decision that you make automatically. So the purpose of habits, the challenge again is with most people is they don't choose their habits. They are brought into their lives through osmosis, through the people that they are raised by, the people that they're around. And I think that, you know, one of the things that Gary Keller, who is the founder of Keller Williams, says that I absolutely love is he was asked, what is your superpower? And Gary thought about it for a second and he goes, my superpower is very simple. My superpower is to be able to look 90, 180 days down the road and identify what's the goal, what's the thing I want to make traction on. And he says, okay, once I've identified that, then I chunk it down and ask myself this question. What's the habit, the singular habit that if I installed it would make the path to achieving that as much ease and elegance versus blood and guts as possible, right? What's the single habit that I could install that would make getting from here to there as easy as possible? Does that make sense?
I love that. And I love that. That's exactly what I'm saying about traction. It's ease and elegance versus blood and guts. I love that because I'm not that interested in blood and guts. You know, I've had a very bloody and gutty year. I mean, we all have. I mean, I'm crying uncle on that, right? Help me figure out something positive. I don't want, I don't want to sit here and talk about New Year's resolutions. Like, I'm just going to poke myself in the eyeball. Yeah. Even though I know that's a ways down the line, but that's not what we're talking about here, right?
Right. No, so here's the thing is that I don't want to paint a picture of that's airy-fairy that you're never going to have blood and guts, because one of the reasons that people don't ultimately achieve anything of any greatness is because they go through the blood and guts and they start looking around going, this shouldn't be this hard, which is just an invitation to resolute doubt planning into their mind and going, oh, well, I'm not meant to do this, or I'm not doing it the right way. All things are blood and guts before they are ease and elegance. Okay. So I don't want people to get an airy-fairy, impression of this. And yet what you said earlier that's really interesting is, I have the good fortune of working with some of the top minds in all of real estate. And the thing is that most of these people are being pulled. They do not have to be pushed. And see, I get this kind of reputation of being somebody that holds people highly accountable, and I, push them. It's kind of like you imagine a personal trainer like screaming at someone. And whenever someone comes to me and says, I need extreme accountability, my first response is, no, you don't. What you need is a vision that pulls you so that you can stop pushing yourself so hard. Something that moves you, that you've got to answer the call. You need to stop and listen, because here's the thing, doubt shouts, wisdom whispers. And most of us, we're not slowing down and listening, so we don't hear the call, and it's this pushing. And then we have the comparison machine of social media that is everybody else's highlights, and we compare their highlights to our low light, right? And we don't tend to believe when we talk to ourselves in a successful voice because it's in our voice, not in somebody else's, right?
Yeah.
So I think that what you're talking about is habits and traction. These things are awesome. And yet let's paint a vision. Let's get excited between now and the end of the year so that you're being pulled. It doesn't feel like the grind because you're so clear on what's moving you forward, right?
So talk us through like what, I mean, your average bear, like what kind of things are we talking about that would be, I mean, how do we know where to start, right? I mean, how do we know where to start? Like I can cast a vision. I can, I don't know. When you say that, then it starts to slip through my fingers again. Like how do I identify what are the things that I want to focus on? How do I cast that vision?
Well, I think that there's a couple of things. Number one, sometimes, Mary Cheatham, is when I talk to people about the question, what is it that you want? They don't know how to answer that. It's kind of a big question, right? Like, what do you want, or what does success mean to you? And so sometimes I'll reverse engineer it with them and say, let's play a different game. Tell me all the things you don't want. And man, they have no problem. Boom, boom, boom. Here are all the things I don't want, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm taking notes ferociously going, okay, now let's go back through the list. What you're saying is you want the opposite of that thing.
Right.
Right? So people, write this down and remember it forever, are wired more to avoid pain than they are to move towards pleasure.
Yeah. And
so sometimes we find what we want most through what we're moving away from most.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Another way to find, and this one is one I picked up a couple of months ago that I have really has worked great with helping people know where to get started, is just asking the question, what makes you mad? What really gets you going, right? Like what really gets under your skin? And then following that down. What's the source of that? And so those are great places to start. Another thing that I like to do is, if you're getting overwhelmed with this, just chunk it down. Healthy, wealthy, wise. What's the one thing I'm going to make traction on in my health between now and the end of the year? What's the one thing that I'm going to do with my career, my wealth, my net worth between now and the end of the year? What's the one thing in my growth, my contribution between now and the end of the year? Right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing though, Mary Cheatham, I've also figured out that most people know what they want, but they are afraid to stand in the possibility that they'll never be able to achieve it, and
Right.
they can't deal with the possible disappointment, so they're afraid to admit that that's what they actually want.
Right. I mean, by admitting that you want something that you don't have, then you're admitting there's a gap.
That's
and
right.
Then you've got to have, you bring that pain into your consciousness that there's a gap between where you are and where you want to be.
That's right. That's right. So one of my favorite stories about this is, you know, maybe we're looking at, you know, where you want to go, but you're not quite sure. I mean, most people know how to get there. It's what's holding you back, what's preventing you, what's keeping you from following through. And I love the story of the movie 300, which is actually a true story, but it was back in the day, there was a massive Persian army.
It's not a race car movie, Mary Cheatham.
Back in the day. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm ready. I seriously don't know this story. I'm excited. Okay.
So a long time ago, there was this massive Persian army that was coming on to Greece, right? And that Greece and the Spartans in particular knew that they had to protect this one location called the Hot Gates, or all of Greece would fall. And Leonidas, who was the king at the time, went to the council, tried to get the army to go. They wouldn't let him go because they were basically being paid off by the Persians. And so Leonidas marched himself and 300 brave soldiers, and for days they battled the Persians at this one location and held them off until somebody routed them out. And you'll have to watch the story. But imagine being the king of 300 and taking on an army of 250,000. And how much resolute certainty you would have to have in order to do that. And here's the point of this story, and how, when we're talking about what's preventing you, is that wherever you're sitting right now in your life, as you're hearing these words today, there is something that is scary to you. And you know what it is. And people will spend their entire lives, all of their vitality, never facing the thing that they know that they need to face to move through and become the ultimate success formula story that they want. You know what that thing is. What is it? And when we bring it to light, why aren't you facing it down? And if we're talking about the last 90 days of 2020, why can't this be a defining moment for you where you finally face the thing down, but you bring with you the energy and the intensity that Leonidas and the 300 brought to the battle at the Hot Gates? Does that make sense?
Ooh, yeah.
And
that hit you right in the feels.
Yeah. So I know I'm ranting right now. My little soapbox rolls in here every now and then, as you know, Mary Cheatham, but I get passionate about this because I think that we are so distracted today and we don't listen to our inner voice and ultimately answer life's tough questions because we're afraid of what we'll have to go through to achieve it, right? So
I just envisioned this whole, I know you've mentioned this before about the can, kicking the can down the street or whatever, and we always assume that there's going to be a trash can or something, or a sewer, or something that the can's going to be able to get kicked into once we hit that point. And this whole year I've envisioned December 31st, Mary Cheatham, like you just said, as that trash can of where that can go in, and then everything's fine on January 1st. That's not what's going to happen. And I love that you, I just love that you shared that you have to face the thing that is scary to you first, and then you'll find that trash can for that can to go into.
Yeah, and the thing is, Meg, is that if you face it every day, if you'll look it in the eye and face it every day, and I've tackled major things in my life, as I'm sure both of you have too, in 6 months, you'll look up and you'll have a brand new life. That pain digs a well in us, and you can fill it up with transformation, or you can fill it up with TV, food, alcohol. Don't numb the pain that causes the change. Use it.
Dang.
That's so good. It's so good. And you know, the other thing that I'm thinking while you're saying this is sometimes we don't face the fears because it could be embarrassing, or because, I don't know, there's this, I mean, it all comes down to fear and everything that goes around the fear. But I guess the great thing about where we are right now is we're at the end of 2020. This year has been a hot mess. And so if there was ever a time to just throw caution to the wind and give it everything you got, now's the time to do it, right? Because it's not like I mean, everybody's got their stuff. Everybody's got, everybody's kind of, I mean, our game faces are off. I mean, I'm just saying in terms of, that we've all had to be so much more real than we've ever had to be. And so now's the time to do it. It's not like you're being pulled out of your nice comfy cocoon. I don't even know where anybody's cocoon is. Nobody has that anymore. So just now's the time to go for it, I think. I mean, it's not that big of a jump, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Most people have never really felt what it's like to be, I call it activating their awesome. I don't know that they've ever truly felt what it feels like to completely activate and to just be as awesome as they can, right? And to your point. And so, I think that what happens, Mary Cheatham, is we get caught in this duality, right? There are these opposing forces inside of us. For example, why does someone who gets paid really well but hates their job stay in that job? Why do they do that?
Are you really asking me that question?
Because of the money.
Yeah. What does money really represent? Security, right? So they go to do something that they hate, but they do it because of security. And so what they're saying is that they value security over freedom, but they live in inner civil war. They're at war with the present moment.
Yeah.
Do you have another example too? I'm curious of the same concept, just another example.
Well, so when we're talking about the duality that lives inside of you, so think of somebody who's in the wrong relationship, right? Why do they stay in that relationship when they're clearly unhappy? It's because they value certainty, they value this security more than they value the unknown. And so one of the things that, I've really been using as a coaching tool over the last month or so, and I'm sure Mary Cheatham, you're sick of hearing about it, is the hero's journey, right? And if you haven't heard of this, I would encourage you, if I can share my screen, I'll see if I can do this.
Oh, yeah. And we can post it below in the notes as well.
The hero's journey is something that I would invite everyone. It's a very well documented step-by-step process to transformation. And if you were to sit down and just ask yourself, where am I here? And there's 12 steps to it. And it starts with a calling. What's the call to adventure that I'm getting? What's the force that's keeping me from going there? And so getting the duality of that conflict that's inside of you, it's what Gary Zukav calls in his book, The Seat of the Soul. It's aligning the soul and the personality rather than them being in constant conflict. Are you with me?
Yeah, I am. And I think, so what I hear you saying is that the hero's journey is something that if someone's watching this right now and they're feeling, I mean, we could just sit here and talk about this all day. And I think that what I hear you saying is that the hero's journey might be a great tool for someone who's watching this and feeling inspired to access and to look at. And I think one of the things that you said that just kind of lit me up, I think that it all comes down to that, is that I think we get to decide, are the next 90 days a throwaway, or are they our path to transformation?
Yep, that's right. And another thing that I want people to hear, Mary Cheatham and Meg, you're not broken. You might be tangled. And so the analogy that I use is like, if you ever had a really nice necklace that got all tangled up and it's like this loop and you just want to throw it away. My wife will sit there and pick that through and untangle it, right? And it goes back to the way it was before. And I think that in our culture, so many people sometimes look at this and they go, making traction, like, I'm not meant to do that. Like I'm broken. You're not broken, you're tangled. We just need to untangle you. And the hero's journey is the way that it's one way, not the way, that you can work yourself through that step by step. But know that the road to transformation is not one that's paved in comfort. They don't call them growing comforts. Right? It's growing pains, and there's a reason for that.
I think so, but I think that one of the things that you're saying that I know is true is that those pains are there's one thing about feeling pain and you're not really clear on why. You're not really clear on whether it's worth it or not. You're not really clear on where am I headed? What is this the path to? Why does this have to happen? Whereas I think if you understand this is what it's going to take to get there and I'm bringing it, right? Then that changes that pain into something that is purposeful and something that is growing you and something that's just part of the path, as opposed to, where you just think, well, this sucks.
Right. Well, if you use exercise as an example, somebody who has a hard deadline of a marathon is far more likely to go through the work and do what they need to because they're going to get to run the marathon versus somebody who's just like, their goal is, I'm going to get in shape. Right. So same idea. And I mean, if people, I think, go back to what we said before, if one thing I would invite you to do between now and the end of the year is just analyze how good are you at keeping your promises to yourself and to others. Ugh. The thing is that I've told you this, Mary Cheatham, that if I never taught you anything else that other than that as a coach, then I will have succeeded. That keeping promises to yourself and others builds trust, confidence. That's the starting gate to getting traction.
You just tied that up with a very pretty bow. The loop was closed, mic drop. Amazing.
That's amazing. And just so you know, as you're just saying that, I'm thinking of myself for sure. And I'm also thinking of my kids. So I love that. I love that as we're kind of tying this up, I hadn't thought about it until right now to have this conversation with Sally and Walter. And I think to say, keeping the promises that you make to yourself and to others is the most important thing that you can do. And I think that's so true. And I think helping them gain clarity around what are the promises they make to themselves. Promises you make to others, I think, are clear. Promises you make to yourself, that's getting, you're really getting into something there. So
it's literally your passport in life, and how far you're going to travel is how well you can do that.
Yeah.
That is good. Well, Jordan, as we wrap up our time, and Mary Cheatham, I want to ask you the same question too, but I want to hear Jordan's answer first. But you've been on this segment before, Jordan, so you know what question is coming. But we are curious now that it's a couple months down the road. It's okay if it's the same answer, but what's saving your life right now?
I want to give the same answer that I said before, which is helping people like you, right? And I think the thing that is saving me now is the thing that I'm most proud of, and it is the people like you. It's the fact that we are sitting here, 4 or 5 months later, and we're still doing the things that we said we were going to do. We're still winning, and it's the results of the things that my clients have been doing, and how well my kids have adjusted to this and not being able to just see their friends, but how well I think a lot of us have navigated this, and stepping back and reflecting on that, and the people in my life that watching them work through it and coming out on the other side of something that's really scary is the thing that is saving and will continue to save my life.
It's so true. Now we can look, I feel like when we talked to you before, we were a little bit at the forefront of all of this, and now we can actually look back and see the path that got us here. So I really love that answer. That's awesome. That's Mary Cheatham, what about you? What's saving your life right now?
Oh gosh, Meg. I don't know. I think maybe that what's saving my life is kind of the ability to step back and especially it's the end of the week. I mean, I've had a week that's been very tactical. I've had a week that's been very as everybody has, I mean, that's what a week is, right? It's getting through from Monday to Friday and getting your things done and taking care of your kids and working and all the different things that we do. And so I think what's saving my life is knowing that you have space like this that's available where you can stop and say, man, what's the end game? What's the big play? What are the next steps? So I think that's what, anytime I have time like this, it totally fills my cup. And I just feel like I can see everything through a different lens now. So I think knowing how quickly you can shift your headspace, I think that's really what's saving my life right now.
That's good. That's really, really good. Oh, awesome, y'all.
What about you, Meg? What's yours? What's saving yours?
Well, mine's really quick, and it has to do with Jordan, but I think you texted me last week, Jordan, and you were like, what are you reading right now? And I was like, what am I reading? I told him I was reading Dare to Lead, and he's like, now are you reading it, or are you just reading it when you have time? And I was like, just when I have time. So just chunking away at it. And he said, if you read 10 pages of a book every day, you'll read 12 books a year. I was like, oh, wow. So I've been reading 10 pages every night before I go to bed of that book, and I have made more strides in completing it than I would have without that advice. So I think that's something that's really tangible and something cool that has been saving my life recently, and it's something small you can implement into your day.
I love that. That's good. That's good. That's good.
Oh, Jordan, well, thank you so much again for taking the time to be on today. And thank you, Mary Cheatham and Jordan, for letting me peek into your coaching call and see what it's really like. So you guys are awesome.
Thank you, Mary Cheatham.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. Happy almost Saturday, Jordan.
So pumped. I'm almost there. One more day.
Oh, bye, y'all.
Okay, bye. Thanks, everybody.